For more insights on the significance and implications of the state and local polls in the U.S., let's speak with John Fortier, the Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and he joins us from Washington, D.C. Dr. Fortier, thanks so much for joining us on the show. So the races for governor in New Jersey and Virginia and mayor in New York are probably the most prominent, and the stakes feel so high, for both parties. I'm wondering why? Because I know, yes, the Dems need a win, but these are not federal elections, so Trump technically can't be touched, right?
Well, it's the first time we've really gone to the polls after Trump's election. So it is true we don't have many elections, but these elections and the ones next year at the midterms are often something of a referendum on how the president's doing. And typically they don't go so well for the president. So the president tends to lose seats in Congress and tends to lose these governorships. So it is the first time voters will weigh in, but it also is not that likely that they will be voting for Republicans.
Okay, so I wonder what this means for ordinary voters, Doctor. I mean, what's really on the line for them in these off-year elections? Are the issues still the same, like economy, cost of living, except Trump owns it?
Well, the actual elections are probably more about state things like education. The Republican governor now of Virginia had run on issues like education during the Biden administration. If it goes back to Democratic hands, it'll move more in a Democratic direction. I think New York City is the most interesting because we have a candidate, Zohran Mamdani, young, and really perhaps the most progressive. He calls himself a democratic socialist, most progressive candidate we will have seen in New York, and proposing some very strong change in the way that New York will be operated.
Dr. Fortier, in California, we haven't mentioned this one. There's a ballot on redistricting as well, because Texas and at least 3 other red states, redrew congressional lines. Now, I'm wondering, has this become another critical battle line ahead of the midterms you were talking about, which will take place a year from now?
It is. It's a lead up to those midterm elections. We usually draw our lines every 10 years after a census, but sometimes states change their district lines in mid-decade. Some Republican states have, and now California is putting it on the ballot to say we also want to change our lines to make more Democrats be elected to Congress in the next year's election. So that looks like it's going to pass. We'll see change all across the country. Perhaps maybe a few seats in the Republican direction will be helped, but it is a battle that's going on in a number of places, and California is the most prominent because it's the largest state, and a number of seats are at stake for the 2026 elections if California voters vote for this referendum, which says draw the lines in a favorable way for Democrats.
Okay. Polls seem to show Democrats are more motivated to vote, even though their view of their own party is near record lows. How do you explain that split, that enthusiasm without affection?
Well, I do think Democrats have problems. They don't have an identity. They won't have a leader until really the 2028 election. But this is a midterm-like election, and that really means it's a focus on the president. And the president's supporters are a little more divided, and the president's opposition is united. They may not agree on all the policy issues, but they agree that they don't like Donald Trump. And so that tends to lead to much more energy from the outside party. So again, in the long run, Democrats have some thinking to do about that next presidential election. But here, the motivation is there to vote and to send a message to Donald Trump and to put some governors and a mayor in place that'll be of their party.
So, Dr. Fortier, assuming, the Democrats win, and they desperately need a win, doesn't this all mean, and this is a point that CNN raised as well, doesn't it all mean, that red states become redder and blue states become even bluer, electric blue, and this just only further, I guess, widens the divide that we already have, or we already see, if you like, in America?
Well, we do have a divide. I don't think we're going to see great consequence because of this election. In the midterm election next year, where probably the same dynamic will be there. The out party will likely gain some seats, and maybe the Democrats will take the House of Representatives. Then we might see divided government at the national level, and that will limit what a Trump presidency can do. So this is a bit of a foreshadowing in terms of national politics of what might happen next year after the 2026 elections.
Okay, so regardless of who wins, how will the winning or losing party interpret the results as mandate or warning, and how might that shape their strategy for 2026 and beyond?
Well, I think winning the elections, which Democrats probably are going to do, will be an obvious message that Democrats will say, look, we're coming back and we've recovered a bit from the last election. I do think, though, that Donald Trump is in a position that is not ideal. His numbers are down a little bit from his election, but he's in a much better position than he was in the first term. And he will still have Congress at least for another year. So Republicans will likely suffer a little loss, but they won't lose the really key levers of power, at least for the next year, where they're able to really put forth the Trump agenda and work on the things that he wants to work on.
So, Dr. Fortier, before we let you go, just very quickly, do the Democrats have a united message, a singular message, if you like? I mean, we know Mamdani is a Democrat socialist, and we have other candidates, running for the races in New Jersey. Who are slightly different. Is there a central message that they can offer to voters and to win new ones potentially as well? I mean, do you see that happening?
Well, I think eventually they'll need a message, but this is a midterm election, one where you're just focused on Donald Trump. So Democrats will win in different ways. And I think you'll see Mamdani win in a way of a very progressive wing of the party, whereas the governors of New Jersey and Virginia are running a bit as moderates. For now, they're united in that they don't like Donald Trump. But come 2028, they're going to need to have a candidate who can unite those wings of the party if they're going to be successful.
Understood. Dr. Fortier, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for your time this morning. John Fortier is Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute.